Guys, episode 2 of the MetaTalk. Mr. Running Up here, Logan Drake, got Herm the Goat, my co-host, and our special guest today, Mr. Ricky. Ricky actually made top 4 of the Caster Cup, and no one really knows who he is. He is the mystery man, and I wanted to have him on so everyone can understand who he was as a player and also know a little bit more about him, because I know he will be a threat and someone to look out for in the future. Ricky, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, man. Tell us about your background and tell us why MetaZoo.
Oh, well, first off, I just want to say thanks to you guys for asking me to do this and having me on here. I think it's a great opportunity just for me, like you said, to kind of like introduce myself. Little bit about my background. I actually came from Magic the Gathering originally. I started playing Magic the Gathering in 2001. Just casually, and then it got more competitive about in 2015, and I mean ever since then I've had pretty good success with it. I have multiple top finishes and invitational qualifiers, regionals, pro tour qualifiers, Grand Prix Day 2 finishes, the championship series that I've qualified for. I mean, it's been kind of surreal. Obviously not as rocket propelled as MetaZoo has been for me, which has been kind of nice, but yeah, trading cards have always been a big part of my life. So I kind of picked up the game and I just went with it. It's been great ever since.
And that's what I think is cool about MetaZoo. We get to pull out of our past experiences playing other games, but it's not exactly the same. Like with Magic, your artifact coming awaken, things like that. They make things a little bit different. So is there any deck that you played in Magic that kind of helped you with MetaZoo, or did you have to just come in and mess with everything?
I personally had to just kind of come in and just mess with everything. The good news for me was the mechanics for Magic actually translate over pretty well to MetaZoo. With Magic, you have lands or mana, which translate into just auras. Instead of beasties, they're creatures. So a lot of that there was a lot of carryover. So minus the way combat works in MetaZoo, for me, I kind of learned how to play the game, honestly, in like a few minutes and just kind of went for it. And it's been great ever since.
That's awesome to hear you say that, Ricky, because I literally learned how to play the game in less than 8 hours by that man right there. Literally 8 hours. And I went and played my first tournament and won my first tournament. So I feel,
hey, sometimes when you got it, man.
Yeah. You know, and I agree with you. I think having experiences from other TCGs will help a lot going into MetaZoo and the formula that they're creating between other TCGs with the life points and, you know, with the interactions of attacking and blocking and so much interaction. I think it helps to have that TCG experience. But I also think players that are coming into this fresh, I think MetaZoo is a good start as not having any TCG experience.
I agree with that. You don't have like the mispreconceptions about how cards are supposed to work. I still make mistakes all the time about how something's supposed to work, just with missing timing, or if they even miss timing at all. And I'm sure Logan definitely has the same issues. We get butt heads all the time with it. Ricky, were there any tricky rulings that you weren't prepared for?
Not so much tricky rulings. It was more so just like cards that were kind of surprising to me that I didn't realize were as good. Birthday celebration literally blew me out in day 2. I will forever hate that card because of that situation specifically. I was fortunate enough. I did get to play against, obviously, the guy who got first place, Easton. He's really good, really nice guy too. But yeah, there were moments where that was very relevant that he had that card and it was his birthday. So I definitely got crushed by him for sure. He's a great player.
Yeah, Easton's a great guy. You know, I've had back-to-back games with him so many times, and you know, every time it's like a Da Vinci Code with him and I, because you know, sometimes people look at us like we're actually playing chess games with one another when it comes to siding, when it comes to playing certain things at certain times, you know, where you wouldn't do with another opponent.
I definitely look forward to my rematch with him for sure. That's going to be something to look forward to.
Are you planning to come to any events in Texas at all?
For the bigger events, yes, I will always do Casters Cups no matter what. I think my next big event is going to be, I think it's Long Beach, and it's next month, right? No, August.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll be at Long Beach in August. So if you guys see me there, you guys want to say hi, I mean, I'm pretty friendly, even though I don't look it sometimes. But
So I know we've kind of got a little bit background of who you are as a player and your experience when it comes to Magic. I ask you, going through 8 rounds, this is all about talking about the good, the bad, and ugly, because we want to make MetaZoo a better game. I did have a question. I know you played 8 rounds. Do you recall one match that was like your toughest match? I have 3 questions for you. So one was like your toughest match, and do you feel like the time frame you had, worked for you? Like this game's 15 minutes for best 2 out of 3. Like, could you recall a game that you can just remember like that was a tough day one?
So for day one, ironically enough, Logan, my match with you was super close. And the biggest thing with that was a lot of my other matchups, I just felt like I was extremely favored. And it was essentially like I was just, here's another day at the office, just slamming quets and going to work. But with you, it wasn't like that. Like you really actually made me work for it. And that's kind of how me and you just ended up talking, because I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. I gotta give him some respect. Like, so
who won the die roll?
I lost the die roll because I lost 5 die rolls.
That's a quest mirror match.
Well, one thing I will say, which I also thought was extremely impressive, is Logan was not playing Phantom cards in his deck at day one at all. So that was super surprising when we finally talked about it. And I was just like, because that card saved me a bunch of times when I was playing against him, actually. So,
well, that was something that we talked about and kind of just missed really quickly because of our side deck. If you draw the side deck card, Phantom cards don't put as much work in because you are able to kind of spam with Hornets if you don't have an answer for Hornets. But Phantom card came in handy for most everybody who played it, and we're playing it now again. So it's definitely interesting having something that comes in just with 30 LP.
Oh, absolutely.
I like the card.
Well, it was actually kind of funny because people at the shop that I play at, and then people would ask me about my deck, and I wasn't playing Hornets at all. The whole weekend, I didn't play one Hornet in my deck, and people were like, "How are you not playing this card and you're still beating people?" And I was like, "Well, when other people play Hornet against me, that's just more food for Thunderbird to just keep untapping quets and just keep attacking." So I did luck out with a lot of my matchups, but I think I made the right deck choice as far as the cards that I wanted to see in my deck at that time. Hornet is still a great card, don't get me wrong, but
well, I think it's I'm probably going to talk about this later on a different MetaTalk about deck choices and what side deck choices actually affect your meta setups. So Phantom card, which interestingly enough, it does plus 20 on water, so it kind of does the same thing as Hornet does. Hornet just puts that turn 1 drop on you, but with anti-potion, that was the card that really messes up water. Yeah.
Something I really think about, Ricky, I think you pioneered a good deck that me and Herman, we've done the Turbo Ding Bell, but I think you made the deck for the current meta at Caster Cup. So it was perfect in the stance that the Ding Bells could get going and it could get out of control, and the Hornets can't run over them because they have 20 LP. So people really didn't understand Ding Bell did that. I learned that on my first tournament where I would go turn 1. You talked about it with me, but in my first tournament, I was the turn 1 Ding Bell guy. That's what I was moving for. I would play Ding Bell, and turn 2, I would play Metal Man. And I main deck Metal Man, and I think you did too.
I did too. The card's great. There was so many times where I would have Ding Bell in play and slam Metal Man down, and people would be like, "Oh, I have radio," and I was like, "Yeah, Ding Bell doesn't care." Experienced players would completely forget about it. I'm just like, "Got you."
70 LP is so hard to get over as a 2-drop. It's great. I love that card.
Guy is just Metal Man is just a house. That's all I can say about the card. Man.
Especially once you learn how to defend with that card. Oh my God, you get first strike. People are just like, "Oh wait, help."
So Ricky, my question for you, the topic that we bring the casters and we bring players on to learn about them. We also want to make this game better. So when I ask you this, if you could bring something to me that you really enjoyed about the event at Caster Cup, what is the good? And then I'm going to ask you, what is the bad? And honestly, what is MetaZoo needs to work on it? Because I know a lot of them, like Kevin, I know Logan, and I know Michael himself, they enjoy stuff like this because they're just going to sharpen and build the game better. And I want to hear from outside players that are coming in to play MetaZoo now, how we can build to make it better. So good.
Well, Oh, sorry. So I will say, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like this. So I'll tell you the good off, just right up. Everybody was extremely nice and welcoming in that community. I was not familiar with anybody. I didn't know anybody. I literally went there with the people from my card shop, and I wasn't even really close with them until the tournament. And everybody else that were just complete strangers, even if I beat them, they were just nice and welcoming. And it was like a breath of fresh air, because sometimes in the Magic community, you don't always get that, because a lot of those people are more seasoned and they take it more seriously, essentially. But yeah, I had a great interaction with everybody that I played with. I played against a lot of very good players, and I met a lot of great people. Once I started winning, people were more so coming up to me and like, "Hey, I wanted to introduce myself to you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, hi. How are you? Like, you just beat my friend. Who are you?" Same thing. Everybody wanted to know who I was. This is random guy from California that just started playing MetaZoo like a month before the tournament.
Yeah, definitely a great part of its community, how friendly everybody is. And I think it's good to be in this early so that people who have experience know the dark side of the game and how to kind of distance that and try not to let that seep in from other games into this.
Absolutely. And then let's see the bad. I will say the bad, and honestly, this isn't really a bad because the game is still newer, but just more card pools. I want to see more decks. I want to see a diverse meta. I don't want it to just be a bunch of Quetz decks and then XYZ. I want there to be like a dozen different decks, and then you have to make sure your sideboard is right for those decks. And obviously that's going to come with time. I'm really excited for UFO to come out in about a month or so. So that would definitely be my bad. My ugly, I would say, and this is just growing pains as well. It's more so, it was the length that it took to get the tournament going. And I think that was more so just because of the fact that they were not anticipating such a large group of people to just kind of flood Texas and play MetaZoo for that day. So maybe just, start registration a little bit earlier. But other than that, I really had no complaints about the game or how anything worked. All the judges and everybody was super professional with me anytime I saw an interaction or had an interaction. So yeah, I think I'd say that's pretty much it as far as my good, my bad, and my ugly.
Those are fair. Especially with the last part with the registration. I know MetaZoo, they're very when they're in person, they want to make sure everybody gets the chance to play, which is fantastic for them for like a customer service experience. They know people drop money to buy the CN2 card they needed, to hurry up, get to the airport, the hotel, and then stand in line for what seemed like hours. I know I was there for at least half an hour in that long little line. I got lucky with my friends being there, so at least it wasn't boring. But seeing everybody in line when it was walking by when we were changing our sleeves, we were right there off the corner of the food, and it's just like this thing doesn't end 2 hours later. Like, no wonder we're all hungry.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's one thing I'll say. I'm glad I came from the tournament background with Magic, because the playing the long rounds and the long day, you really have to be built for that, or at least work yourself up to having that stamina. It's exhausting playing cards all day long like that. I think we finished day one at like 11 o'clock at night or close to that.
Yeah, 11 or 12.
It was like 1 o'clock. I got home at like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we went to eat and you're like an hour away.
I have to give a huge shout out to the people at my card shop, Cardboardia. Literally, they were bringing me food and snacks in between rounds, day 1 and 2. Like, without them, I literally would not have made it. There was never time if you're winning.
Isn't it?
Our cameraman, Logan's cameraman saved me with bringing beef jerky sticks. I misplayed so bad because I have food in the car. But it was 6 o'clock and they closed the event, so they wouldn't let my girlfriend run out and get the food. I was like, I tried to give her my caster bag, like, baby, don't sit back here with this. Like, they won't even let me go to the other side. Like, there's no way. And that's why, of course, at the last round, the last minute too.
Yeah, those last rounds were tough. I know everyone was exhausted, but we made it through. And I know it's growing pains. And the one thing that I like about this game, this community, everyone has their opinion, but at the end of the day, everyone will respect one another in this game. And I know from our experience from other TCGs and yours as well, I'm not sensing that, I feel like more of a family atmosphere of everyone connecting from all over. That's why, we actually made MetaTalk is to connect players this is not to be so much about MetaZoo, but actually understand the individuals in this game. And so, Ricky, we appreciate you coming on. We thank you for everything, man. And I personally look forward to the rematch. I know it's going to come sooner than later. But I wanted to piggyback back what you said. How many decks, in Magic now, how many decks are actually like the meta now?
Oh, geez, there's dozens, like actual dozens.
Aura type is what I guess I'm saying.
Oh, so there's essentially for Magic, you have 5 aura types, but there's so many like subcategories of that. And I mean, the meta at any time there's 10 different decks and they're all good decks. There isn't like a best deck right now. It's just like this deck will beat this deck, but then the other deck is going to crush the one that you think is the best deck. Like it's kind of like the circle of life, essentially. Like there's always a bigger fish. And I look forward to when MetaZoo gets to be that way too. When, you're just kind of sitting there, dang, do I want to play this deck or one of these other 5 choices that I have on the roster? So. Yeah,
I look forward to that too. Just, options of each deck, having its own base and being strong enough to play in the meta. It's got a bright future. I'm looking forward to it. And I just look and I don't, you have your expectations, right? But I think they're doing a great job. I think R&D is doing a great job. The play testers are doing a great job of coming together. One thing we've got to do better, and I want to give my feedback, is the editing of the cards, the wording of the cards. There's times that me and Herman will read cards and we'll reach out to support and stuff and share. And then next thing I know, they errata like half the cards. And they were just like, why did we say something?
They don't tell us. They're like, we're going to let you find out, everybody. Like, come on, man.
Sometimes you'll read a card and be like, wow, this is really good. And then you read the errata and you're like, okay, never mind. I'm going to put this back in the stack.
Yeah.
Oh, we were already on that tiny island. That thing was going to be ridden off into the sunset with APP. Nobody was bringing out BC, nothing.
Oh, my
And they
Lord.
made a token set. Oh, and Void Spell, too. That could have been a huge one if they didn't change that to any type of draw on the card.
Yeah, the first time I read that, I think I read it wrong because I got way more excited for it than I probably should have. And then I reread Void Spell again.
Well, Ricky,
some cards in No, go ahead.
Ricky, I know you have a tournament to get to. Hey, I appreciate you coming on here. Look forward to having some tournaments down the road. I know I plan to come out to California. I know y'all talking about having some tournaments. This is the time, if you want to mention anything, your shop or anything, or your sponsor, it's here right now. Because I love to come out to tournaments outside of state of Texas.
Yeah, no, I do want to say thank you guys so much for actually inviting me on. It was a privilege. And I loved that I was able to actually kind of like tell you guys a little bit about my background because I know a lot of people don't know who I am. Huge shout out real quick just to my actual card shop, Cardboardia, that I play at in Murrieta, California. And my sponsor, Jesse, who literally without him, I wouldn't have even played MetaZoo because he goes, you should probably play this game, Ricky. You'd be pretty good at it. And I remember me and him having a conversation and on day 2, and I goes, Jesse, were you expecting me to, make top 32? And he goes, I was expecting you to do good. He goes, I wasn't expecting you to do that good. So I was kind of like, I was able to kind of like, I'm here to stay. So I look forward to playing with the rest of you guys and, continue this journey with you guys in MetaZoo. It's going to be fun.
We look forward to having you, man. We hope to see you at more events besides the Caster Cup. I know we have tournaments all over, but we will see you at Long Beach. But other than that, I'll go ahead and cut this off. Ricky, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, this will be up soon. Everyone stay tuned for episode 3. Y'all take care.
Bye.
Peace.